out with the Crows. That's ridiculous.
Beat is fucking spooky.
Ready to roll. Let's go, everyone. We are live. Welcome back to the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel. My name is Matt Savoca, and I'm here, as I always am, with my buddy Nick Lepri. Follow him at NotoriousFNTSY. I'm at Draftaholic over on the Twitters, and we're talking wide receivers. We're talking Week 6. We got a lot to get into today, and Nick, I know you had your Marshawn Lynch level lollipop to get us started, so you're probably feeling that sugar rush right about now to get the people ready for Week 6. What's up, man?
How's everyone doing in chat? That intro was honestly very spooky. I did not expect that. It is October, so it made sense, but I don't know. Did you see that coming? Did you know that's what it was going to sound like?
I had no idea. Shout out to everyone over at the production team. Especially you, Chris Karen. I know you were out here grinding for us last night late to make sure these graphics were good to go. You'll notice a new sponsor at the top of the page if you're watching on YouTube. We'll get to them in a bit. But ultimately, we're here. We're doing the same thing we do every single Thursday. We're getting you ready for, first of all, tonight's matchup, the greatest football game of all time, Washington at Chicago. But we also got you covered with all those tough start-sit questions. Lepri, I saw Smile last night. Are you a scary movie fan?
Somewhat, yeah.
You kind of said that reluctantly, like, no, I don't actually like.
No, I do actually. I've seen a lot of scary movies. I don't love them because I do get scared.
So
but, yeah.
I used to not be a fan at all, and I don't know what happened, but over the last 5-7 years, I have become a horror movie, not like gory slasher, like gratuitous blood kind of horror, but like I could go for a good horror movie all the time. Smile was scary as hell.
It looked scary.
Smile
was
scary.
The fact that the ads come on ESPN at like 1 a.m. when you're watching, it's like, how do they do this to me?
Well done to all who were involved with that one. A whole lot of fun, and we should have a whole lot of fun this week. Let's have fun with Tier 1. We can throw it onto the board as we say hello to many familiar faces. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Juan, what's going on? Going to get to your question in just a moment. Miso, what's up, man? Nick Jackson, how are you? Actually, Juan's got a question. Let's get right to it. Juan says, good morning. Hey, good morning to you, man. What do y'all think about Gordon this week? I assume you mean Melvin Gordon?
Are there any other Gordons?
I mean, Josh, but he's somewhere in Tennessee.
He's flying high. I would say I'm pretty confident in Melvin Gordon. I just wouldn't say that I think that he's going to be like locked in as this upper echelon running back because the team is just so up in the air right now. Like, I just don't feel very confident saying that I know what the Broncos are going to be because I think the Broncos could turn it on, but I think you should be pretty confident that Melvin Gordon's going to be like a top 24 back with the upside of being, say, like RB10 because he's really hindered by the fact that the team's just ass right now.
It truly. We have him at running back 23 in our projection-based rankings. In my gut-based rankings, it's a little bit higher, but I'm talking like 19, 20. 23 makes sense to me. I realize I got a light. Flicked itself off. Hey, what's up? Good morning, everyone. Melvin Gordon is a clear RB2 to me. A starter, unless you have two RB1s available for your team. If you are projected to lose by a significant amount, I don't really think Melvin Gordon is the type of player this year who's going to get you 30 points on this offense. Am I crazy there? Like, he's a good for 10 points kind of player, but not necessarily for 20.
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think if we were going into the year and you said, oh, Javonte Williams is going to get hurt, how do you think that Melvin Gordon is going to do? You probably would have thought, oh, he's going to be top 12. But, that's why the games are played, right? That's why you don't crown your champion in August. So that's just how things are. The team's just not as good as we thought they'd be.
There we go. Getting things started with a nice question. Thanks for hanging out, Juan. Tier 1, you heard of these players. Cooper Kupp
Never heard
has
of
a
him.
foot issue. Wasn't seen at the start of practice Wednesday. I hate it. Thanks. I hate it. We're still playing him if he's available. Same with all these guys. Deebo Samuel, he's the one where he's playing an Atlanta defense that has been exploited in the pass game and the rush game, but especially in rush defense. In rush DBOA, Football Outsiders key advanced metric, they are bottom 4 in the NFL right now. I think Deebo Samuel gets plenty of opportunity, even though Jeff Wilson looks good. And the ghost of Tevin Coleman also making an appearance last week in that blowout win.
Yeah, it's a Tevin Coleman revenge game this week. Little known fact.
That's
up against the
That's
Atlanta
right.
Falcons. I'm a big revenge game guy, but while that might come to fruition, that's not something I'd be betting on.
Yeah. And with that, we probably just move right on to tier 2, because if you're lucky enough to have gotten these guys, you're playing them. And I think we got to start with a couple of the players who sit right at the top of tier 2, because we're annoyed that they're not quite in tier 1. Tyreek Hill's got a foot issue. He's also dealing with a possible third string quarterback starting. Jamar Chase just hasn't had the volume we wanted to see. We just haven't seen the same progression that we were hoping for with, a similar trajectory with Justin Jefferson. And then from 7 to 16, I think most fantasy gamers are just kind of playing these players every single week, with the exception of 10 and 11. There's Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. The Geno Smith effect is in full effect. Look at them looking like wide receiver 1s in our first run of projections here at Stochastic.
Yeah, I honestly agree at this point that they should be close to the top 10. I don't know if I'd have them ranked this high, but
It's aggressive, yeah.
Like, am I surprised that they're up here? No, not after what we've seen. Like, this team has been unreal compared to what I thought they would be. And Metcalf and Lockett both have just significant upside. I've talked about this multiple times, but that ball that Geno Smith threw to Tyler Lockett literally looked like something Russell Wilson would have done. It's amazing just how good Geno has been this year.
I'm happy for all parties involved, honestly, right? The real loser in all of this is the Seattle defense, who cannot stop anybody. But for us fantasy gamers, that's great, right? Because the defense giving up points week after week after week means the offense and Geno Smith are forced to continue to keep playing efficiently and aggressively downfield. Hence, more deep passing, more games of 300-plus passing yards for Geno Smith, more opportunities in general for Lockett and Metcalf, and we had no qualms or concerns about the talent, right? These are elite talent players. Now, we have some faith that they can actually get the ball. That's more than you can say about players like Courtland Sutton right now or Michael Pittman. I mean, I even still have concerns about, I know he's won all the games, but like Cooper Rush isn't as good a passer as Dak Prescott, and it's limiting CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems like Dak's going to be back by next week, you would think. I mean, this week they play the Eagles. That's kind of like throwing him to the birds, metaphorically, right? He was going to have a bad time. But next week they play up against the Lions, so you kind of get that get-right game up against a defense that couldn't stop a JV football team. So I do think that makes the most sense. In terms of CeeDee Lamb, though, I'm still going to roll him out there with confidence. Initially, when Cooper Rush became the starter, I was nervous, but he was wide receiver 7 in week 3, wide receiver 8 in week 4. He continues to see a ton of volume. I'm going to roll him out there, but I am a little bit nervous about the matchup against Darius Slay. Normally, I'm not someone who overreacts to the cornerback matchup, but there's some scenarios where it holds true, right? Slay this year has been unreal, and then Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore normally ends in a disaster. Those are kind of the two that matter for me. And then in terms of the other wide receivers, I'll just keep on talking here. T. Higgins put up a absolute dud last week. I was so high on T. Higgins. Talked about him on Sunday Night Football live before lock. I was like, this is the T. Higgins game, T. Higgins captain season, and that didn't work. So I apologize to anyone who watched that. That's obviously my fault. I totally saw T. Higgins getting benched coming. But yeah, I think T. Higgins gonna have a bounce back game as long as he plays. Your mic's muted, by the way.
Well, I'm here like reacting, smiling, having fun, waiting for my moment. How were you supposed to know he had an ankle?
He does have two ankles.
Well, an ankle injury.
Yeah, I know. He didn't practice Wednesday.
Yeah, I guess so. It's still, I mean, the volume has been there for T. Higgins, and we had just seen a huge week from him. So you win some, you lose some. Let's get to a couple questions here as we move on with tier 2. I just noticed that we might in the graphic have an erroneous player just because I left him in the document. That's on me. I will point that out multiple times. I'm sure chat will tell me about it anyway. Waddle or Gallup this week? For me, it's Waddle, and I think in the next page we will see Waddle appear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm going with Waddle. As a Dolphins fan, Skylar Thompson did not look good last week, but he also wasn't really practicing. Like Mike McDaniel said that typically the starter gets about 80 to 90% of reps, and then the backup gets like 10 to 20%. So the guy, that's his first game ever. He was like a 7th-round draft pick. What do you expect? Now he has the whole week. Teddy's going to clear concussion protocol today because he didn't actually have a concussion, and he's going to be the backup. I think if Skylar struggles, Teddy goes in. So I'm fine playing Jalen Waddle, just not where I would normally have him ranked, right? Normally with Tua, he's a top 12 receiver, and it seems like Tua might come back next week.
In my very undoctory opinion, I think it was very, very clear that the league and the team, given the circumstances of this year, was being extremely conservative with Bridgewater's health. I am not a doctor, but it certainly looks like a situation where it's possible that Skylar Thompson will not start this week. If he does, none of us should be surprised with the way that the protocols have changed, even mid-season. And so eventually this Miami team will get their quarterbacks back. I still think Waddle and Hill are startable players just because they can both be volume hogs. They don't need like deep downfield passing for them to work. They can get dump off passes, and as long as they get like 6 or 7, they can make things happen themselves.
Yeah, and Teddy, if he becomes the quarterback, he threw the longest air yard throw this year against the Bengals to Tyreek. So
that was a beautiful pass, by the way.
Yeah, and did you see real quick? Did you see Kirk Cousins, the mic'd up video where he gets hit in the head and he does the hand thing that Tua did, and then he just stands back up, and then nothing happens? Very funny.
Hey, actually, if there's anything that I can say is an absolute positive, is all of these videos are getting more scrutiny by the public, by the league, and it probably ends up with safer players. That's ultimately what I want. If you throw the next batch on the screen, we can get to a couple of others, and there's the one I'm talking about. 21, we are not out of our minds with Khalil Shakir. That is erroneous. We're just going to have to boop that out of our minds and move everyone else up one. That was from a previous document, and that is on me, not you, Nick. 17 through 20, however, is correct. That is the end of tier 2. The player I'm most concerned about, other than Keenan Allen, simply because of injury concern, is Drake London. That San Francisco defense is nothing to mess with, and even at home, 5.5-point underdogs, I don't know if Drake London is a must start unless you're starting like 3 or 4 wide receivers in your deep league.
I mean, last 2 weeks, wide receiver 79 and 60 in half PPR. I mean, he's still getting the volume, 7 targets in each game. I don't love this matchup either. Like, he struggled against Tampa last week. I think there is a chance he bounces back, right? Because he's just so good, and they just have to throw him the ball because for some reason Marcus Mariota doesn't know who Kyle Pitts is. So I think Drake London could have a good game. I just would have him ranked much lower than where we got him. I'm very nervous about Drake London this week. But there's so many teams on bye that it also kind of elevates these guys.
Exactly. That's part of it, right? You know, you're missing out on your Amon-Ra's, your Brandon Cooks, Devontae Adams, so some people are struggling. Again, I'm just going to repeat it probably 8 or 9 times. Khalil Shakir is not 21. We have him at 85. It is my mistake. It is my mistake. But I think Evans, especially against a Pittsburgh defense that looked incompetent against Buffalo last week, even on the road, Evans is probably the one I'm most confident in. I definitely would play Evans over Waddle. I think I want Evans over Waddle rest of season. And then Keenan Allen, they better be taking this time, this sweet time with him, so that he gets back to full strength and he can just have like 11 targets a game like we're used to. Otherwise, we're like 2 weeks away from calling it a lost season.
I agree. I mean, I hope Keenan Allen comes back and is good. I am definitely worried. Like, I'm playing him in most situations, right? Because it's not like you have many better receivers than Keenan Allen on your roster, but you have to understand that this guy might just put up an absolute dud in his first week back because he might not be fully healthy. But when is Keenan Allen fully healthy? The answer is never. The guy's permanently banged up.
Yep, I agree. All right, I'm so annoyed at myself for putting you in this position to have Khalil Shakir on the page. We got to move on. So in your minds, everyone, we're moving everyone up one, meaning Christian Kirk is 21, Dobbs is 22. Whatever we're gonna do. We see the real wide receiver 2 for the Bills also in the top right of that screen. That's Gabe Davis. We got him at the 29-30 range in our projections this week. Chris Olave still in the concussion protocol. Hopefully he'll be able to play. Deontay Johnson taking a huge backseat to George Pickens with Kenny Pickett at the helm. And then a player that we've kind of been back and forth on, Adam Thielen, in that same matchup against the Miami Dolphins, I think has a chance to feast if the Dolphins, who get Xavier Howard back, focus solely on stopping Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Adam Thielen has been kind of one of those lesser interesting players this year. Like, he didn't live up to the hype that I kind of had on him. Like, I really thought that he could be a top 12 receiver. We've seen it in the past. Kirk Cousins has looked pretty good this year. It's just been a lot of Justin Jefferson. But if this Dolphins defense is as banged up, like, Xavier Howard's going to play, but he still has that groin injury. Byron Jones does not seem like he's going to play. This defense got absolutely torched by Zach Wilson and friends last week. So I think Adam Thielen should have a pretty decent game.
Zach Wilson and friends actually does sound like a jam band.
It does.
Zach Wilson and the MILF Hunters. Miami's 29th in total defensive DVOA. They're real bad. 28th in defensive average value over expected. Oh my goodness. 32nd in pass DVOA now. Lepri, it's bad. Lepri.
That's because Tua's hurt, bro. They'll be better.
No, this is defensive DVOA. This is value.
Yes,
over
I know.
average.
I know it's because they play better for Tua. Everyone knows that. We saw it last year too. It's the same thing. When Jacoby was in the game, the defense wasn't good. When Tua was in there, the defense is great.
All right. Here's the other part. If you're completely wrong about the idea that the defense is able to play better or worse based on the quarterback on the other side of the ball, if you just are able to throw that out of your mind, and the defense is this bad when Tua comes back, this team is going to be scoring a ton of points in shootouts, similar to how we were talking about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I'm shooting Waddle and Tyreek Hill right back to the top 15 the minute Tua Tagovailoa gets back. How do you feel about Jerry Jeudy at 29 and Curtis Samuel tonight at 33? Like, let me give you some what ifs. Would you rather play Rondale Moore or Curtis Samuel?
Curtis Samuel for sure.
Okay. All right. That's, obviously they're in the same tier, but the rankings are a little bit different. Gabe Davis or Curtis Samuel?
I don't even think Gabe Davis should be like wide receiver 15.
Okay,
don't even
so
think
he should be way up, like in the tier above.
Yeah.
Okay. So, needless to say, Gabe Davis over Deontay Johnson?
Yeah. Deontay Johnson actually hasn't been, like, he's been bad, but he's still getting the targets. So I think it's eventually going to turn around for him. But Gabe Davis still.
Okay. And then the other one we got to talk about is Juju Smith-Schuster. He was pretty much a non-factor. Still getting decent projections right now. But in my gut, I don't have him at wide receiver 32. I have him at like 52. This is where math can really help us, guys, right? Because we create these rankings based on our historical and statistical-based projections. Then we can talk about our interpretations of it all day long. But if we don't start with a good fundamental baseline, if we don't start with math, we're certainly not going to add math in the correct way. So it really helps us. I still don't feel good about Juju at 32.
Yeah, no, neither do I. Did you see that video Juju posted on TikTok the other day? I can't believe this man's even allowed to play football anymore. He posted a video. You know what smash or pass is? Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Yeah, so he did smash or pass of a bunch of anime characters, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. You wonder why the guy gets 3 catches for 33 yards on Sunday night. You wonder why. The guy's a fucking weirdo. If I had him on my team, I would
Are you
personally have
kink
cut him out of that
shaming?
video.
Is that what's going on? That's what's going on at the moment?
Yes, I am. Yes. No, but honestly, that was a weird
Reason number
video.
85 million I'm not on TikTok every day.
Yeah, no, it was very I saw it on Twitter. Someone posted on Twitter. It was very funny. But at the end of the day, Juju they really don't have a number 1 receiver except for Travis Kelce. So it just doesn't seem like any week you can rely on any of them. Like last week in that primetime game, like MVS looked good, but you still can't rely on MVS because he's not scoring touchdowns. Same thing with Juju. Like you fire him up every week. You see the high scoring narrative against the Bills. You talk yourself into him. You do the mental gymnastics. You play him. He's going to get like 9 points. But you're in your head, the back of your head, you're like, damn, he had the upside to score like 25. That's just kind of how I feel about Juju at this point.
It's funny. You can do this for uncertain situations in season-long leagues. So I think the Chiefs were a great example of this year. I drafted Juju in a couple leagues, but in those leagues, I also had Mahomes or Kelce. And the reason being that I'm going to be starting Mahomes or Kelce every single week. So if I get 35 points from that duo of Mahomes and Juju, I feel good. If I get, 25 or 30, even, I feel okay. But right now it's been like 30 points from Kelce and 2 from Juju. So it's been weird, but I still think attaching yourself to a certain part of a big offense and then using an uncertain part and kind of undoing that uncertainty is something you can do not only in DFS, but in season-long leagues. Anybody else you want to highlight here before we move on to the wide receiver 3 section of this all?
Yeah, Allen Lazard has been pretty interesting. He hasn't been amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but he keeps scoring. And that's obviously positive for fantasy football. They do have a couple of receivers, right? Like they force-fed Randall Cobb in England for some fucking reason. But at the end of the day, I do think Allen Lazard is going to be a key piece in this offense, and I think he deserves his spot inside the top 32. But it is kind of hard to rank him every week because I do think Romeo Doubs overall is more talented.
Yeah, and your boy Randall Cobb keeps getting slightly involved too. That throw at the beginning of the game was nice.
Randall Cobb, the god.
Cobb, the god. Let's get to a few questions here. Alec Pierce or Devin Duvernay, full PPR. This is the I kind of like Duvernay this week.
Okay. Do you think Bateman plays? Sorry.
No, I don't.
Okay. Then yeah, I agree. Duvernay then.
There you go. Quarterback question. I want to answer this one. Should I start Danny Dimes over Trevor Lawrence this week? Full PPR. I am not. I'm not scared of the Colts defense. I think the Colts defense looked better because Russell Wilson is bad right now, and not that they're very, very good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Trevor Lawrence has been on kind of a downward swing the last couple of weeks, but the Jaguars are still the Jaguars at the end of the day, but I think they'll figure it out and be much better this week. So I'm pretty confident in playing Trevor Lawrence.
We just got reports that Teddy Bridgewater is limited in practice, indicating that he's been cleared at least partially. He needs full clearance in order to be able to play, but usually if you're deep in the concussion protocol, you will not practice at all. So that's a positive sign, optimistic to say the least. Okay, who else? Ooh, at the flex, I like this one. Waddle or Brian Robinson? I think it's still Waddle.
You can go first if you want.
I was just going to say I think it's still Waddle pretty clearly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Brian Robinson is like it's going to be so cool tonight to see him maybe go crazy. But look, the fucking over-under is 38. Like, we're not expecting any of these guys to score a lot of points. So I would just go with Waddle. He's just significantly safer. I do think Brian Robinson will eventually become a guy you want in your lineup every week, though.
I agree. And as we move on to, I think, the remainder of Tier 3, beginning of Tier 4, do want to show you guys that we have a couple of awesome things going on over at Stochastic. First of all, we have a start-sit tool, which we love the love over here. We love getting all the questions. But if we're not around, we actually have a ability to hook into the stochastic projections, the same one that power our DFS premium tools that are lots of monthly monies, by the way. And you can help you with these tough start sit decisions. I'm going to link to that start sit tool because it's been free right now, at least while it sits in beta. The second thing, I know that there are some people who are at week 6 and they're looking at their team and they're getting a little nervous. They're saying, I put in whatever amount of league dues I felt comfortable with, and now it looks like the other teams in my league have gotten the juggernauts, and I'm really scraping here. And we're going to help you out and find those sleeper picks for you for sure. But I actually want to talk about how you can get a significant amount of those league dues right back in winnings by using DraftKings Sportsbook. So many of you guys are playing in states where maybe you guys have just come online to the mobile betting universe. First of all, welcome. It's awesome here. Water's fine. But also, this is another chance to take advantage of free money. Free money is legitimately hard to come by. I'm not going to waste your time. You know that. You live in the real world. We have a special limited time offer where if you bet $5 on a team, any team, NFL, college football, NBA preseason, and they win, you get $200. So you immediately turn $5 into $200. You can bet Alabama against Morgantown Stanley State. Like, you can do that. You can bet the heaviest favorite you can find. Bet $5 at DraftKings. And when you click the link below, that's how you activate it. So we have it in the video description below. You get there, you bet $5 on a money line bet. And if that team wins, it's $200. We're not going to go crazy about sports betting. We have a brother channel talking about that, the Odd Shopper channel. But do want to tell you about that offer because I think it is kind of a no-brainer, just like some of these tier 3 players will be when the buys get really bad. You want to shoot over to wide receiver 34 plus? Yeah, I knew we had a couple
35.
more. Yeah. Devonta Smith and DJ Moore, clearly in that same tier as those aforementioned players. I don't want to spend too much time here because let's get into the unless you're like done with DJ Moore. With PJ Walker, it's going to be tough. They're 10.5-point underdogs, but I still have to start him in most leagues. I have him.
No, I actually think DJ Moore's at a better spot with PJ Walker. If you look at the splits between with PJ Walker and with Baker Mayfield, we see that PJ Walker actually targets DJ Moore at a higher rate. I was going to say DJ Moore more, but then that would have been redundant. But yeah, I do think that PJ Walker might actually make DJ Moore better. Now, I'm not saying that this is a stone cold lock guarantee,
Right.
but I do think it is possible. And make sure you guys hit the like button too.
Oh, nice. Just a drive-by call to action. I love it. There's Alec Pierce, honestly, surprisingly high. So at 40, that is sort of that placeholder spot where we might have Khalil Shakir for those asking in the chat. Not at 21. But one player I do want to mention is Amari Cooper. Playing the Patriots, they're 3-point favorites at home. Amari Cooper tends to torch man coverage, and the Patriots tend to play a ton of man. He scored a touchdown last week. I think I'm going right back to the well, and I have him as a wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I would also have him ranked a little bit higher. Amari Cooper has been pretty solid thus far this season. He was wide receiver. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull it up on Fantasy Pros and I accidentally clicked the play button and it brings up a podcast I totally want to listen to while I'm talking to you. So
That's
12
exactly
targets,
what you wanted.
7 receptions, 76 receiving yards, and a score, 17 fantasy points, wide receiver 11. He's been a top 12 wide receiver 3 out of 5 games. Not what I expected out of Amari Cooper, if I'm being honest. I'm not just going to lie to you and make some narrative up where I was a big Amari Cooper guy. I just wasn't because I didn't think until Deshaun Watson came back, I thought they were going to be a terrible team, but I was wrong. So you got to keep rolling out Amari Cooper, and I think he plays good against the Patriots. And we just got a super chat. I'm going to pull it up real quick. Alex White says, I picked up Raheem Mostert to start next to Singletary this week. Nick, what are your thoughts? Yeah, screw you, Matt. Nick, what are my thoughts? What do I think about Mostert? He sat out with a knee yesterday. I assume Raheem Mostert is going to play, and it does appear that he is the clear number 1 guy there. Chase Edmonds has dropped too many balls in order for him to continue to go out there at a really high rate. He dropped a crucial touchdown against the Bengals when Tua was playing. He dropped a couple of passes last week. Things are not looking the best for Chase Edmonds, so I think Raheem Mostert is the guy. When players don't practice on Wednesday, I'm never nervous. That's typically the veteran rest
Off
day.
day. Yeah.
Raheem Mostert is fucking 30 years old. He's certainly a veteran. So I honestly think that you should rely on him this week. I think I like him better than Singletary this week as well, but I know you're starting both of them. What do you think about this situation?
Yeah. Mostert, I think, is a every week flex starter right now. He's a starting running back on a team that doesn't really know what they're doing with the quarterback.
Agreed.
Singletary is on a better offense. I have Singletary over Mostert rest of season, but I may look like a fool by the end of the season. But also,
Yeah,
Alex wanted your opinion. Let's be real. Alec Pierce is one that I can't trust. Sorry. Even though Jacksonville is an up-and-coming defense, their defensive metrics actually look pretty darn good. In schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed, that contextualizes fantasy points allowed to the teams that they've already faced and the offenses they play, Jacksonville is third best in the NFL, with Buffalo and Philadelphia in terms of difficulty to score on. Do we really need to start Alec Pierce? Bateman is another one where, like, even if he plays, that one is concerning for me because he's such a speed-based player. I get the Giants matchup is easier. Russell Gage too, man. I had higher hopes. He had one spike week when everyone was off the field, but since then, it's been the usual suspects in Tampa Bay.
The guy that really burned me this year was Darnell Mooney. I had a really high ownership of Darnell Mooney on best ball. It's just not good. Like, he's had one top 30 week. He's had 2 games outside the top 100. Things have not been good for him, and I honestly don't know how it can even come back unless miraculously the team starts throwing the ball more. They don't have a bye until week 14, so they're not going to just make these crazy adjustments yet, I don't think. I mean, I already cut Darnell Mooney on teams I had him. It's a disaster. A real disaster.
And you know what sucks, too, is, like, we've seen some highlight plays from him. He's clearly a talented guy.
Last week we saw a great highlight from
him, so. But
just
how can you trust this guy? How can you trust Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Same thing.
My guy.
Eric Lindquist banging the drum into oblivion for Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
He was wide receiver 20 last week. I also liked MVS a lot.
I played plenty of them, that's for sure. Garrett Wilson is another player where I think he's just good at football, and we're finding that out pretty quickly here. I'm flexing Garrett Wilson over a bunch of these players on the list. Terry McLaurin, I'm doing anything I can to keep him on the bench right now, especially with news that Carson Wentz is injured.
Yeah. Did we talk about... Oh, we don't have him ranked this high. I could just bring him up right now, I guess. George Pickens. I think George Pickens should be ranked higher. Even though the Steelers' offense probably going to not have the best time against the Bucs. He's been a top 24 wide receiver 2 weeks in a row. 8 targets in both games. He had over 100 yards already. He's a rookie. Kenny Pickett loves to throw the ball to George Pickens. I really do think that's because they're both rookies. They work together a lot on the second team. I think George Pickens is destined for a humongous year. And it seems like even like last week he did it against the Bills. So can he do it against the Bucs? Maybe. But I would definitely have him ranked significantly higher than where we have him.
Okay, I think that's fair. What about Ayuk, who has just kind of not shown up in a lot of these games? I get why you have to rank him here, but if they're going to run the ball so much and even in blowout situations get the ball to like Tevin Coleman in the passing game and Kyle Juszczyk, and they're barely even finding ways to get George Kittle involved, how can I trust Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, he hasn't been a top 32 receiver once this season. He's playing against Atlanta, so sure. Do the mental gymnastics, talk yourself into the matchup. Last week he played Carolina, was wide receiver 46. So I'm not sure how easy of a matchup he's going to need to really succeed. He scored 1 touchdown. I think Ayuk's an immensely talented player. The issue is there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen in San Francisco, and Ayuk is not the 5-star master chef like Debo or Jeff Wilson or even George Kittle, who has been a disaster. I tweeted out a picture. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme, the Battle of the Mid. And it's Kyle Pitts versus George Kittle this week. The battle of the mid, baby.
Dude,
What the hell is that?
I can't tell you out loud when your tweets make me laugh. But that would inflate your ego too much. But that one got me. That one made me laugh.
That was a good one.
That was a pretty good one. It pains me to say those things. Yeah, this is pretty much a tier that outside of a few players, we're starting them because you're going, well, I don't have anyone else, is kind of how I feel, is why you're going towards these players. The only players I can say definitively they have a chance to really outpace their current ranking: Amari Cooper, Garrett Wilson, if he plays Rashad Bateman. Everyone else, it's like, oh, wow, they actually showed up finally. Michael Thomas, even great when he's on the field, just can't seem to get on the field.
Yeah. Terry McLaurin, I would definitely have ranked higher as well, but McLaurin he's just one of those guys you put in your lineup. He's going to be wide receiver 24 to 32. If he has a bad game, he's going to be like wide receiver 40. You just kind of have to accept it at this point. There was a lot of people that were super high on Terry McLaurin. Carson Wentz hasn't been the best. He hasn't even been awful, really. I mean, last week, that interception. Yeah, that interception, the dude looked like he was Stevie Wonder in the pocket at the end of the game. But at the end of the day, I'm still confident in Terry McLaurin. I just can't have him ranked super highly because I do think he's talented. He has so much talent. He's kind of like DJ Moore, just getting absolutely screwed by the quarterback.
I agree. Hey, so this is a great opportunity to do something. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a quick recap. Let's just go through, because not all of you were here at the beginning of the show. It's 10:37 on the East Coast this morning. We got to get out of here in about 7 or 8 minutes. Sad to say. You'll be back, hour and a half before game time, talking start-sit decisions on this very channel?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. Whenever, or is it 7:30? I don't fucking know. I'd have to check the schedule, but it's probably already scheduled out on this channel, so you can probably just go check, or I'll go check right now. But
yeah, Lepri Ron Burgundy's his life. He gets a couple spreadsheets that tell him where to go, what to say, and he does those things, and he's great at it. We love him for it.
Yeah,
Tier
7
1
p.m.
Tier 1, we know these players: Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel. Yeah, if you got them, you start them. We could just go laser fast. Tyreek Hill through A.J. Brown have projections very similar. Some have better ceilings than floor. You know, the ceiling players: Chase, Lockett, and Metcalf. A.J. Brown. The floor players, probably Godwin, Marquise Brown, and CeeDee Lamb at this point. You know, these players are probably, unless you just have God tier wide receivers, you're not really flinching. The big thing we highlighted, Zach T, in the beginning is look at Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, 10 and 11. That has everything to do with the Seahawks offense, led by Geno Smith, actually getting some significant yardage on a consistent basis. Anything else you want to add here as we move on?
Yeah, I could just go back real quick.
Yeah.
I think Mike Williams is pretty interesting this week because of the fact that Keenan Allen returns. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are nervous to play Mike Williams, maybe even in DFS. And I think Mike Williams' ownership is going to be lower. But then again, it doesn't matter because the game's on fucking Monday Night Football. So take what I said, throw it out the window. I don't play any of that weird like Sunday through Monday DFS. I just don't like that. But yeah, I do think if this was a normal slate like they played on Sunday, I think people would be pretty wary to play Mike Williams. But I think he still could have a huge game this week.
And the rest of tier 2, we're going fast through this because I know we're limited on time, but I see those super chats. We're going to get to them in a minute. We already talked about Khalil Shakir not actually being 21. He's not actually 21. Drake London to Mike Evans. All of these players, especially Evans, are players that I like. Drake London is the one player where I have him ranked a tier below this because of the matchup against San Francisco.
Okay. I'll move us to the next one. Alex, we'll get to your question in half a second. Let's just go through all this first.
Christian Kirk through Curtis Samuel. This is the iffy tier, right? Our favorites in there were Adam Thielen, Jerry Jeudy. You like Jacoby Myers and Gabe Davis, who you said should be in tier 2, not tier 3. The scariest players to start: Curtis Samuel in that low total game on Thursday Night Football, Juju Smith-Schuster, who just simply hasn't shown up, and then honestly, Rondale Moore is one who I get why the projections have him there, but I have him as a wide receiver 4 and below.
Yeah, I'm also a little bit more nervous about Jeudy than you. Like, it really does seem like Sutton is like the funnel. But again, I think Judy is a great player. Just the situation is very concerning. And the fact that we have to watch it on Monday night is disgusting.
That's true. And then we got Devonta Smith and DJ Moore, who honestly I would put at the front of tier 3 and not this back tier. But again, these median projections are very, very similar. That's why we grouped them together into tiers originally. Then we head back to tier 4 where we originally were, Zach T. These are players who you probably are in a I have to start them situation. Our favorites by far are Amari Cooper, Garrett Wilson. Least favorites, honestly, MVS, Darnell Mooney, who's droppable, And Isaiah McKenzie is kind of a placeholder here. If McKenzie can't go, this 40 is where we would put Khalil Shakir, not 21.
And then there's also other rankings.
Yeah, here we go.
Far, so might as well leave them on the screen.
Yeah, we'll leave them up on the screen, and this is where we can get to Alex questions. And I see your other super chat. Hey, we really appreciate it, Alex. I'm just joshing you.
Thank you, Alex.
You can go. Pickens versus Tampa Bay, London versus San Francisco, or Judy versus the Chargers. I have no real faith in Denver, and Atlanta looks shaky. I think Pickett can perform better than other QBs. What do you think?
I agree with his assessment. I think Judy does look shaky. London, I think London's the better player than Pickens, but I think Drizzy Drake London is kind of in a bad situation right now. The matchup's very concerning. I would go Pickens. Again, you're hoping for that 8 to 10 potential targets. If there was a game for him to kind of hold the L where he has a shit game compared to the last 2 weeks, it would be up against the Bucs. But I just think they're going to be down in the game. They're going to have to throw the ball roughly 7,000 times. So, yeah, Pickens is going to get his. So I would go with George Pickens. If I had to rank them, I would have them ranked in the exact order you kind of read them off. So it would be Pickens, London, then Judy. I'm leaning Pickens. And I'm going to be honest, I'm leaning Pickens pretty heavily. What do you think?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I get it. The volume has been there week after week. The second Pickett walked onto the field, Pickens was a wide receiver 1 in volume. And I see you. Appreciate the love, man. Yeah, you got to ask Nick about the Fins anyway, the resident Miami expert. Okay, so anybody in 46 through 57 besides George Pickens, who you said should be well above this, that you're feeling the same way, or another that you're like, I don't even have him here. Like a player for me, like Ben Skoranek, I get why the numbers might put him here, 10.5 point favorites against Carolina Panthers, but do I really consider him a top 60 wide receiver, someone I need to get to in a 12-team league? Probably not.
No. 54, Tyler Boyd becomes incredibly interesting if T. Higgins does not play. Again, we're sitting here on Thursday. The practice reports haven't came out yet because it's 10 in the morning. But I do think that Higgins is going to end up playing. The question is, are we going to get the wool thrown over our eyes again? Is Higgins going to go out there, play fucking 20 snaps, decoy, look like John Cena because you can't see him. He's invisible, you know what I'm saying? And I kind of worry about that. Yeah, and then besides that, I actually kind of like Corey Davis because we know that Zach Wilson loves the older people. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know how to respond to you sometimes. But the analysis decent. I like Michael Gallup a lot, I will say. Even though he's got a tough matchup against Philadelphia, I think secondary receivers are going to need to come through if Dallas has any hope of keeping pace with Philly. This is an interesting question as we get to the bye weeks. Derek, I'm not going to even try. Michael says, need to drop one for a kicker, and he's got a good squad. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Deontay Singletary, A.J. Dillon, Cooks, Mackenzie Robinson, and Zeke. So essentially he's got this squad of players. None of them are droppable. I do think you need to find a way to make a trade. In this situation, I think you got to find a way to see if you can free up a roster spot without just dropping someone outright. And if you can't, then I almost would consider going without a kicker this week, as has been suggested in the chat already.
No, I'm dropping McKenzie like it's hot. I don't really feel like he's a guy you need on your lineup and your roster. And I do genuinely think if you go without a kicker, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. I know it might just be like, oh, one game. What does it matter if I lose because I don't have a kicker? At the end of the day, that one win could be the reason why you don't make that one loss could be why you don't make the playoffs. And if you don't score a lot of points, most leagues are points like to get into the playoffs. And if you don't fucking have those points at the end of the year, you'll be like, wow, I should have just dropped McKenzie, who I've played twice all year, right? How many times are you going to play McKenzie?
I used to be
twice?
Full math on this, and then the league champion of the Money League, the league I care the most about, just played no kicker on the bye weeks and won 2 years in a row, and it's been messing with my head. I know what the math says. It still hurts. We're at 10:45, guys. I got to head over to the DFS matchup show. Check it out over at 11 a.m. Me and Laffy, Laffy_D, over on the one that started it all, the Stochastic DFS channel. We go through every fantasy relevant player in every game on the main slate. Get you ready for Sunday DFS play. If you're playing over there, I'll throw that link into chat. And we have another super... Alex, man. I appreciate you, man. This is awesome. Thanks, one. Last one. Thoughts on Hopkins' return next week? They need him, and start him right away.
Yeah, I'm firing him up. I don't think it's gonna hurt Hollywood Brown. Some people are kind of saying that. I think it more hurts Zach Ertz, if I'm being honest with you. I think Hopkins is a must start when he comes back. I don't know if you saw that video he posted where he's like calculating the weeks until I could put myself into my own lineup in fantasy, which I thought was funny. Like he drafted himself, had to leave him on the on the bench. He's like, I need to come back. But yeah, once he's back, you got to fire him up. And this might just completely shift everything in Arizona. I know you got to go, so it might actually really help the Cardinals out a ton. So thank you for the donation or super chat, whatever the fuck you want to call it, Alex.
And
We
thank
really
you to
appreciate
all
it.
of you guys hanging out. It's always such a blast. Nick will be back answering questions for the people, 7 p.m. live on this channel, simulcast on the Notorious Fantasy channel as well, where you can find all of Nick's solo VOD content every single week. We've got you covered this week with the start sit videos, the waiver wire videos, and of course, all these live hour-long shows as well. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. He's Nick Lepri. I am Matt Savoca. Follow me at Draftaholic. And also, guys, seriously, win that free money at DraftKings Sportsbook. I have not seen better offers than that 5 into 200. For Nick, I'm Matt. Until tonight, Nick, we'll see you guys later.